to what men want women to know about dating. My name is Sharon C. Jenkins. And you know what? I keep hearing the song by the late great Tina Turner in my head. What does love have to do with anything? And today we are going to take the time to evaluate that statement. And we have two guest facilitators. The first guest facilitator is the Queen Maker herself, Priscilla Clark. She is a relationship strategist and the founder of the Queen Maker LLC. So get ready for a great conversation. Our next guest facilitator is Blake. He's written a sensational new book, and it is called The Man versus the Gentleman's Code, G Code. So we have the distinct privilege of being here on the same day that this book has dropped. And so get ready for a sensational conversation. And you know why it's important? What love has to do with it. Really, love has everything to do with it.
All right, fellas, it's wonderful that I finally got a chance to sit down and talk with a few gentlemen about this, because this is a very controversial topic. And I think a lot of times in the dating market and arena that men don't often get to say how they feel or what they think, where they're actually heard and understood. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for you all to be able to say what you really think without much interruption. So I have a few questions for you, and I would love to hear what you all have to say. And I would like to start with you, Blake. Can you give me an idea or tell me what is the biggest challenge that you find in the dating pool?
Okay. So dating, let me start out by saying that, there's a range of men, right? So I can't speak for all men. Right? I can only speak for, the majority, right? I think that there's an understanding that needs to be had that dating is a two-way street. It's not just one way. And with that being said, the basic, right? That's just the human nature element. But when you talk about dating, and you talk about two people investing in that day, that opportunity to get to know each other, I think a conversation needs to be had on what it looks like to actually appreciate the other person and what it is that men do and showing their appreciation, which as a man, I kind of have an idea of what they're going to say, right? But for us, it's what's the woman doing to show her appreciation and making sure that we're not missing someone who's trying to show up or there's not a miscommunication.
Awesome. Okay. All right. And what do you think?
I think men have to have a system in place in order to protect themselves in the dating world, because it is 2025. So dating has changed. We meet people online now. It's not the old school, hey, let me go to a bar or a club, get a number, ask her out, and maybe possibly have a conversation before the date. So I'm speaking for me at this point. I have a system in place to, if I am going to actually be chivalrous and take a girl out on a date, I'm going to get the appreciation first and at least try to quote unquote vibe with this person before I even step out. And I find that to be safer for both parties, not just the man, but also for the woman as well. That way we don't have to waste each other's time, So I think that's what we need to address, how dating is today and the new approach and the new style of dating. That way you can have a successful outcome if you do decide to go out with a particular person.
Awesome. And how about you?
I would just say communication is key. Being communicative on both sides, right? Women need to be more communicative on their side as what their expectations are, or men need to be more communicative what their expectations are. Women need to be communicative as to how they actually feel. I think there are a lot of women out here that I see just talking to my friends who enjoy the ambiance of men. They enjoy kind of that validation, but they have no intention on doing anything, whether it be reciprocation, whether it be appreciation. So I mean, if you're a bum, you're a bum. Just keep it $1.
Right.
I'm gonna just be honest with you. So, you know, I've heard horror stories about free meals and this and so on and so forth. And they literally will come out on certain podcasts, certain platforms and say, I had no intentions. I didn't like this guy. But, oh my God, I can't pass up Steak 48. Like, yes, you can. And then they want to paint all men as being dogs and being transactional. No, you made it transactional. When I came to you, I was genuine, open, and honest. You turned it into pay to play.
Right.
So communication to me is key.
So can we all agree that what's done in the dark will soon come to light, right?
Yes.
Can we okay. So I don't think dating has actually changed.
Okay.
I think the light has been turned on. And I believe that social media, which is actually a blessing, it has opened up the door to show how people truly think and how people truly move. They've always moved this way. Both the male and the female have moved the way that they're moving. Now, the systems in the past have been in place to actually control human nature and to systemize it in a way that could potentially be beneficial to both parties. But now that those systems have actually crumbled and it's a free-for-all, you now see the wild, wild west and the dark side of both the male nature and the female nature that is happening, that's clashing. And what I would like to say is that dating based on human instinct and human nature is always going to end in a fire. So when you're dating, I think you're always going to find a problem in the dating market because you're dating people or pursuing people who function based on human instinct and not based on maturity of mind. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I want to piggyback on that though. I think that the purpose of dating has gotten lost, right? I think that people used to wait until they got to a specific place within themselves to say, I want a partner, or I want a family, or I want to progress to the next level. I don't know that people are really dating with the intention of their end goal in mind, right? So it's kind of like Tony said, you know, don't even know if you want a boyfriend, right? But you know you want Steak 48, right? You don't even know if you want to have kids one day, right? But you're gonna go on this date anyway, right? So I think for both sides, but for something that you said earlier, I do agree with the social media part. I think that there has been a little bit of a change in that I think there's been somewhat of an evolution of women as well, right? I think men have always been cavemen, right? We haven't changed since the beginning. We've been cavemen, you know, we work, we do this, we're pretty simple as far as that goes. But I think that we've had a few changes when it's come to women as far as like feminist movements. So moving away from wanting to be traditional wives, right? So when you look at that, to your point, I think you have to look at the dynamic of the new relationship to say, what is that new relationship supposed to look like, right? So with that, I think that we should ask someone out there, right, their take on dating and how do you know when you're ready to date? I'm sorry, that's for Tony and them, right? So for you guys, right, when you think about dating and you think about where you are, right, at what point in your life or what had to happen for you to say, you know what, I'm ready to date? And when you're dating, what are you dating for?
So I think we're all ready to date when we hit that certain point when we meet that certain girl back in maybe middle school or maybe intermediate school, and you're like, wow, she's beautiful, I want to date her. So that's always coming to mind. But I think the real question should be, do I want to be in a serious relationship or do I want marriage? I think that's the point we have to get to, like you said earlier. You know, am I dating to marry? Am I husband-minded, if you will? Am I in the mindset of wanting to be a wife, or I'm just out here just dating just to have maybe some fun, and maybe I'm at a place where I just want to have a companion or somebody in my life? I think we all have to ask that question before we get into the dating pool and actually put ourselves in a position as well to say, am I going to attract that? Or what am I attracting, you know? And not to go too broad or be all over the place, but I think also what we should start is our parenting, because your mom is a boy's first girlfriend and your dad is your first boyfriend. Not in a sexual way, but how that person is going to treat you. Believe it or not, the people that you're dating probably act like your father. And the people that you've dated are probably just like your mom, or maybe look like your mom, or have certain characteristics of your mother. So F, actually find what you're looking for.
So I think for me, it's just about like I agree with Tony from a standpoint of you know when you meet somebody what you want to do. Again, dating with intentions is what we keep hearing that all the time. That's a new phrase, dating with intention, dating with intention. But I think when I look at things and I pull back the covers, I look at it from a standpoint of right now it seems like a game. The game, it's a game on both sides, right? Y'all both are gonna waste time. Dates are time. Now, each of us have things we don't want to give up to the other one. A man's goal is to get what he can get from you, which your most valuable commodity is your body, without giving up his most valuable commodity, which is his money. And a woman on the flip side wants the exact opposite, the inverse of that. And I think that's where things become toxic. That's why I said communication is key. Because both of you guys want something from one another. Is it even possible for you to get X, Y, and Z? So once you figure out the game, you can then apply it. And then you can start to navigate the waters so that you're weeding out those people who want to play that game. If you don't want to play that game, that's perfectly fine. You shouldn't have to play it. But it's communication. If you're communicative and you're honest and upfront, we can avoid this part because we're both going to waste time. But then it becomes literally a game of chess. Who can get from who first? What is their most valuable commodity?
And that's what we need to talk at, because all this other stuff is fluff, because that's the real thing. Mm-hmm. It's a game. It's a wild, wild west, mm-hmm. because at the end of the day, these relationships are based on primal human instincts. They are not based in morality. They are not based in ethics. They are not based in purpose. Now, people have these conversations as if they're basing their life in purpose and dating with intention, but they're not. Look at the average person's life. Look what they've accomplished and done for themselves. A lot of people are emotionally immature. They're financially distraught. They're looking for help. No, that's what most people are.
That's the real.
Yes. Most people are looking for either a mama or a daddy. They're not looking for relationships. Because I can tell you, if you are a healed person, the last thing that you focus on is a relationship. Relationships just happen to come to you at this point.
So I do agree with you, but I think that there's another part that goes into that. And I think that's where the responsibility of, the dater, men and women, to say, okay, where am I in my life and what am I realistically looking for, right? Because if they can do that, then like Tony said, look, if you just in it for the game, then y'all can have that communication.
But B, can I flip? Sorry, not to cut you off. I want to take what you said, what I said, and what she said and combine it real quick. I think the issue, and I think she may have touched on it, so I'll take your speed. My apologies. The maturity level, though. What you navigated was maturity level. But if we've agreed that most people are, emotionally immature, then what you're getting at 30 and 40 may not be. They may be 30 and 40 in age,
right.
But maturity, they're in there. So they're in the different phases, but they just look. Like they're, and I think that, and so when you say that, to me, I look at it from a standpoint of that's great in concept. We're all maturing at the same level. The problem is that maturity level throws everything off. So that metric then goes out the window.
And I get that, and I'm not contradicting that or going against that. I'm saying that is a category of men, right? So that's just a category. So I think there's a few pieces to this to tie in what everybody just said here, because I'm about to shoot back at Tony, right? There's a few pieces to this. I think number one, the conversation really needs to be had, or the conversation that we need to have is about maturing. It's about maturing to figure out what we want for dating, because everything that you're saying is true, right? But we're not talking about happiness. We're not talking about, what's fulfilling people at the end of the day, right? Which is what the dating, the relationship is supposed to be. We're not talking about team building, right? Which is supposed to be the people coming together in order to achieve something for a relationship. But to your point, that may just be a different category of men, right? So that circles around to me when we talk about dating and we're talking about specifically this platform, right? Those men that you were dating when you were younger, or the men that, Tony's referring to, right? Are you looking at their character when you decide whether or not you want to date them, right? Because if you already know they're a dummy, right? If you already know they're switching them out, they're not about anything, right? They don't have anything to offer, then you can't really be surprised when that's what you're receiving.
So now this is where we have to get into intent. And guess what? Your biggest lessons come from losses. Mm-hmm. The more you lose, the more you learn and the more wisdom you gain. So at 28, you wouldn't expect me to know what I know at 39. Right? Especially if you don't have guidance. So I didn't write my book 41 Shades of Men until I was 36. But I dated those guys at 28. So I discovered some things about male psychology and what a lot of men are looking for, regardless of age. I'm able to now determine your intent. So as of now, it doesn't matter what you dress like, what you look like, what kind of money you make, or what your career is. Your intent may not always be pure. And so we have to be able to decode what it is that you actually want, contrary to what you say you want.
Right.
Right? So a lot of men will say they want one thing, but really don't want that. And women do the same thing. So when it comes down to dating, there needs to be education on how to sift out the truth and dig through all of this fluff and these lies, because too many people look at people based on how they dress and how they present themselves and make a assessment based on that, and not actually uncover the truth about who that person is, right? So it's not always, oh, because you made a decision, you chose the wrong guy. Maybe it's simply because people are they just don't know about the person's psychology and to figure out if this person is who they say they are. Because people are very
Tony
good
has
at
something
being,
to say.
I got a lot to say, but I'm gonna keep that.
yeah.
So with that, I'm gonna speak to two things. The last thing you were just talking about just now, that takes time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if anybody in here has been married or what's the longest relationship, but I know people that have been married for 10 years and still not know who that person is, because we all grow. And you have to find somebody that you're willing to grow with, because there's going to be changes along the way. So right now, we vibing. Because we found each other and we like what we like about each other right now. But then as we grow and mature and get older, some things change. Like you said earlier, you know, around the 20s, hey, I'm just out here having fun exploring my sexuality at 20s. But at 30s, I got a little bit of stability. I got a job. Maybe I've graduated from college. I got a little jobby job. I got a little car apartment, whatever, right? I'm cool, but now I'm dating, trying to see my match, or really getting into a real serious relationship outside of college and possibly contemplating marriage. And then say that relationship doesn't work, and then you get into your 40s where, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm 45, okay? So this is my sweet spot. I'm enjoying life right now. I got my money, I got my career, I am having a blast, but it's all about what you two were talking about before, the game.
Yeah.
The game. Now, when you were dating that guy at 28 that was in his 50s, like you said, let's talk for real, let's cut the fluff. You got to realize that, and maybe I'll just speak for me, so maybe I'll throw my own self under the bus. If I'm dating a little 22, 23-year-old at 45 or 50, I'm not taking you serious. So guess what? He's gaming you, baby. And let's let me talk, okay? What I mean by that is, he may have seemed immature, and he probably was. I'm not saying that he wasn't, but what I'm saying is, he's not taking you serious, baby, because he's way too old. So at the end of the day, he's like, well, if I'm gonna have my fun, if she's willing, if she with it, hey, you saw the money, hey, he saw the booty. If that's what it is, that's what it is, and y'all are having fun, and y'all got what y'all wanted. So at the end of the day, you can't, I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but you can't place that hurt of that foul play by him and make it all about everybody, because everybody is in a different place in life. And you have to learn how to seek out. That's what I mean by earlier when I said I was speaking for myself. I have a system in place. So if I meet a girl who's 20-something years old, I'm not taking her serious. Will I date her? Absolutely, of course. Let's have some fun. But I already have a category that you're already placed in, just based off the age gap. And women have to do the same to protect themselves. Hey, this guy's 50. He out of there. I know I'm not finna marry this dude, but hey, he got money. He gonna take me to Steak 48. Let's rock.
See, that's
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a real good concept of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just to figure out, hey, what systems can we have in place and have this already in our mind? Hey, this man's 50 and probably can't get too serious.
But
You
I
know what I
also
mean?
want to throw in there that that's, again, we're still talking about a category, because everyone doesn't have the same upbringing. Everyone doesn't have a two-parent household, right? Some people are
Never
raised by
seen marriage
dads,
or
some
even know
people
what it is.
are by mom. So I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I think that there is truth to that, but I'm saying that there is a world outside of that, and a lot of times we stay in the same pond and then complain about the fish in that pond, right? Of course the fish in that pond may be alike, right? So I know for me, coming from the inner city and growing up in New York and growing up in Jersey, right? I went to college in West Virginia. I left there for the military. But when I went into the military, I'd say by my second year in the military, my eyes were open to a completely different world that I didn't even know existed, right? When it came to just
Travel.
simple things, dealing with people, right? There's a whole different world out there where people don't operate the way we operate, right? They don't operate from our experiences. So this is why I'm trying to come full circle to the maturity level to say, okay, when we're talking about dating and we're talking about this forum and we're talking about what women need to know, right? We have to do a little self-discovery within ourselves, but outside of the game, when it comes to you're in your 40s, we're all in our 40s here, right? So we're not going to fall into that specific category of just jumping around at this point, right? And the reason that I say character matters, just hear me out. The reason that I say character matters is because for the most part, the more that the man has going on, the more critical he's going to be and who he's going to take seriously, right? Because there's a risk there. There's the risk of loss, right? So you can find men, like you said, age isn't necessarily the thing. It's a responsibility, it's a character, it's these other things that will align with who he is as a man, that will align with what he has accomplished. So that's why the blanket thing is a little difficult for me. It's true, but I think it's just true for
It's not a
some
blanket
areas.
because no matter how, again, the majority speak about Americans. The average American reads and comprehends at a 6th grade level. That's a fact. The people who have the most children are the poor and uneducated. Okay. So there's no rites of passage. So what you're dealing with is the majority of people functioning based on their human instincts. And males have a nature to them and females have a nature to them. The majority of relationships and human development is stunted. Both males and females are arrested developed. They exist in a state of arrested development. So it doesn't matter if you're dealing with a 30-year-old woman and a 50-year-old man. The majority of males and the majority of females fall within the mean of the standard deviation curve, the normal distribution curve. So speaking about when we're basing human behavior off of human nature, and you can see this across the board, regardless of culture, because sex differences transcend culture dynamics. So, and they transcend education, they transcend all of this stuff that we're talking about boxing people in. Males have a nature about themselves that can be observed. Females have a nature about themselves that can be observed. And when we talk about male behavior in relationships, it is pretty consistent across the board all over the globe. The difference is the systems and structures that have been put in place to govern human behavior. You let humans go free and humans are going to do what is in their instinctual nature to do.
Well, it does. It does. Because if they had the same nature, they would have just as many kids. They would have just as many irresponsible decisions,
Remember
right?
what I
It
said?
depends on what circles you're rolling in. I don't know. I'm not saying you rolling bad circles,
No,
but
I said
not where I
principle.
roll.
No, I said the thing that separates people is principle. When you start talking about malehood and manhood, there is a matriculation process from boyhood to manhood. And this part is based on principle. People who function on principle make different decisions. It doesn't mean, so to tell me that a person who's rich, his fellas don't get hard.
No, that's not what we're saying,
What-
right?
that's
Because you're
what-
talking about.
But that's what I'm saying. Human nature is the same across the board. The thing that makes the difference is those who have matriculated into their mind and have the ability to govern their human nature. The majority of people that you're talking to, these are not people who are at the top of their game. The average person,
I think
because
that's your circle, which is what he's trying to say,
this,
right?
I don't have a circle. Let me explain to you. Okay. I have an 800 credit score. I have a business. Okay. I teach courses. I develop programs.
Right.
I do not run with the average person. I am 39 years old now, but I used to work in the car industry. So I've been in the military. So I don't have just a small circle. I have a lot of experience where I've been able to analyze different cultures, different financial backgrounds. As a tomboy, men of all backgrounds and different economic classes have spoken to me as if I was one of the fellas. So this idea that I don't know what I'm talking about and it's just the people I know, that I have a lot of interactions with thousands of people on a regular. So this is people from all over the globe. It doesn't matter. I have multiple countries. I have multiple backgrounds. I mean, multiple cities in the United States. This is a wide demographic that I've been able to base my assessments on. So it's not just a person who majored in cell and molecular biology and I have a scientific base. From where I come from, I can tell you that the only difference between humans is their set of principles and their knowledge base. So people who function with a different mentality may do things differently than the average person who is rolling on their biology. We are talking to people, and this information may get out to a lot of people. The majority of people are concerned about relationships. It doesn't matter if they're rich, poor, broke,
Right.
uneducated, smart. Everybody is focused on relationships, and the majority of people will either be dating within their own financial class or dating poor, or they will be settling. And so they need to understand what's driving their decisions. And it is their biology, it is their human instinct that is going to cause the majority of the conflict.
I do agree with everyone now is about dating, right? We know the statistics. We know statistically, they say like 20, 30, 40% of women from 25 to 35 are going to be single, right? But we're talking about the coming together part. For me, I guess with my conversation in this, it's the intent and it's why the person wants a relationship. It's not dating, right? It's the end goal. What are you doing? So that kind of goes to what they were saying. I do think that there is a difference between men, and I think that we as men know that there's a difference between men because we can point out different types of men, right? We know men that we respect. We know men that we don't respect, right? And they can be in the same pool, in the same pond, right? I don't think that women have that same ability, right? And I think that that comes down to the foundation of what this is for me is, and the point that I want to drive home is getting back to dating based off character. So I'm not discounting or disagreeing with what you're saying, but for me, that conversation is about the game of dating, right?
But that's what it's about, because it's about power. Here's the thing. Dating is about power dynamics. And as long as it's being approached from the biological point of view of sexual conflict, that's what you're going to end up with. Now, you just said that you all have the ability to determine who is this type of guy. And it goes back to the reason why I wrote the book, 41 Shades of Men. That gives you, a woman, the ability to be able to sift out the different kinds of men. And the thing
But
is,
I think the real problem with that is most women all want to date the same dude, and that's the problem.
No, you're
So
right.
it ain't the 41
No,
shades of
no,
niggas. There's so many to choose from.
No.
But all women want, the majority of women, not all, excuse me, want the NBA dude, right?
No,
the
I agree
NBA
with
check, the 6'8", 6'5" on up. They're all looking for that one guy.
I
But
agree.
the
But
percentage.
Let's talk about the
of
guy
that-
though. Let's talk about the guys though, right? So the guy part is, that's where the dating is important. For women, it's to figure out what that man wants, what his intention is, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
again, I'm not discounting what you're saying. For me, it just has levels, right? When I date somebody, I'm looking to see if I can see them as a team member, right?
Right.
How does this person fit on the team of the bigger picture for happiness, right? For joy, for the things that we will collectively want to accomplish. Can we complement each other, right? Because for me, the sex is last. Now, that may not be for everybody. That's based off your experience, your dynamic, how available sex is. There's a lot of things that go in there. And I think that that's what plays into your part, right? Because we know that the poor have kids and they have more children and we know boom, 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 right? We've created a culture where this is actually cool and it has become the standard norm now, right? So when I hear women saying, they talk about the men that they date, they date the same dude. He's just a
the
little
same
taller,
dude.
right?
It's the same
He's light skinned
dude.
now.
It is.
Y'all always dark skinned, right?
Same
But it's the same
dude.
I
And
totally
And it's
that dude-
ridiculous,
and-
and then get mad in categories.
No, to your
All
point.
men.
And to your
no,
point,
I-
one guy.
Well, see, that's
And that's
what
your
I
guy.
talked to. No,
But that's what I was
talked
trying to
That's what I talked to women
interject
about.
earlier when I was saying it wasn't to discredit you.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
we know, like, if all men walk in the room, say we all go to jail, we're gonna look at the biggest dude in there and say, "That's the alpha. I'm not messing with him."
Well, it may not be the biggest dude. It may not be the biggest dude, but
I'm just using that as an example. Like, men know how to.
Yeah.
We know how to do that. Once we see each other, we're sizing
no,
each
let's-
other
let's-
up.
let's make
and
it
we know
When
what
you
it
see a
is,
group,
right?
put it like this. I'm gonna simplify. You see a group of dudes at the club, at the cigar section,
Right.
right?
Good.
You can tell.
You can tell.
Who the guy is,
Who's
right?
who.
Who defers to who?
We can.
We
We
can.
can.
No, I'm sorry.
We
We
can.
can.
Right.
But I do agree with what you're saying.
Right, and I agree
with
with
a
you
lot
too.
of what you said.
Right.
I think holistically, I just think that in this new world, and I get it because this has been a complete 180 because women have been getting beat up by the quote unquote manosphere now for several years, right? Whether you agree with it or
Yeah.
not. So they've had to have a switch, right? I think the problem is we need to look internally, both sides, right? Because you talk about dating pools, right? We talk about women. Women, I know women who are very successful who literally call, like all my girlfriends, they not all bad, like they have their flaws. Like most of the guys that I hang out with, my boys, we all roll it, like we all roll it. We're all executives, we're all this, so and so forth. We have a certain level of maturity, a certain G code that we follow, so on and so forth. My brothers who don't even live here, it's seamless. With women, a lot of times, I don't see that. I literally see like it's like, well, she don't really fit, and she kind of grimy, and this, and so. So in my opinion, I just think we need to all, again, going back to communication, we need to all be real, look at each other, and say exactly what it is. Like, call your friends out. Never be too scared to call your peoples out. So I just want to.
and with what he said, we do that as men.
Right.
Well,
Right.
see, and I do that with women because that is the basis of my education to women. I make women look at themselves, right? But in order for women to look at themselves, they first have to understand men, which is the first place, because women actually have their entire identities wrapped up in men. Women don't have any knowledge of themselves or men. So you have to disconnect her from this dependency that she has on men to provide her with an identity and leave her to herself to make her look within in order for her to elevate, because the reality is most women have a childish disposition. They haven't developed in any area actually, and they're very competitive amongst each other to be validated by this alpha male. So I get you all's disposition, right? The thing is that most people do not have an understanding of both sides.
Right.
But both sides have to be communicated because this is not a war. The key is that we can actually evolve if we came from a place of understanding. But you can never get to that place if you're too focused on trying to date the person first. Yes.
They're very superficial checklist.
Yes.
Over 6 foot, make over 200,000. The standard talking points we hear all the time online.
So we're both saying the same.
Yes, exactly. We're all in
I'm
agreement.
saying it should be off of character.
Yes.
You're saying what it shouldn't be off of.
Right.
And you're saying where we are.
Yeah, I'm saying that's
So-
what we need to do. to
Right.
get there.
Gotcha.
All right, this is the second portion of the show. Right now, we're going to be taking questions from the audience to see what they have to say to our panel and if they have any rebuttals or any questions. So let's go ahead with the first guest.
Enjoyable. My name is Brianna, and my question is for the entire panel. And I heard there was a lot of discussion about the game and playing the game. How do you handle situations for women who have already opted out of the game and they show up as their genuine self every time they meet someone else, and they're open equally to each person they meet, and they're not choosing people based off of the standard 6 foot? Like, I'll date a short king, no problem dating a short king. I don't want the super rich basketball player. I've opted into character a long time ago, and I'm only 28. I opted into character right before my frontal cortex closed, about 24. I was like, okay, as women, we are directed to find a mate. We are given that direction way before college. Choosing to have fun in college is a woman's decision. So when we do come into that developed character, how do you all tell the difference?
So you hit on a piece, which is character, right? I think that learning how to date and identify character of a man is one thing. right? But I think even when you hit that, right, because that's where you want to be, then you have to do a piece of self-awareness, which is, I think, what we're also going to talk about later on, right? To say, yeah, you look at this man, you may have an idea of this man that you say that you want, but do you align with that man, right? Are you what that man wants, and what makes you valuable to that man? And you don't have to have it as a standard list, right? But you have to understand that each man that you deal with is going to come with something different. And each man at a stage of his life is going to come with something different. And be realistic with yourself. Are you ready to deal with that man that is going to challenge you for that relationship that you say that you want?
So, yes, and I hear that, but I think I want to circle back to the question of how do you differentiate the difference? Because as a woman, yes, absolutely, all of that. Every
So-
man is different, but
So
how do
I think
you
it's
differentiate?
so I think it's character, right? Like when you sit down and you go on these dates, right? Are you asking this man what's the last thing he's done for someone else? Right? Are you asking him if he volunteers his time? Right? Are you asking him if he has a connection with his kids, with his family? Are you asking him how he deals with conflict resolution? Are you asking him if he's on speaking term with his exes, right? Like you have to develop your idea of what good character means to you, right? Because there's all types of great men out there, right? That just may not be a great man for you. So you have to have an idea of what you want as far as that character goes. Do you want someone who's chivalrous, right? It's not to say that a man who's not chivalrous is less than a man, right? But chivalry doesn't mean as much to one woman as it does to the next woman,
Right.
right? So I think that you have to have an idea of what you're looking for when you ask these questions to see if this person is getting that, right? So the physical is always going to be there, like we pointed that out, right? That's what's going to bring the two people together. But now that you have that, like, what is the mental piece that you guys can connect on that makes you say, I value this man?
If you don't mind, I
Yes.
can answer that question. So I used to date men.
Okay.
I don't date men anymore. I decided to date a woman. And what I date based on mental, emotional, and spiritual compatibility, right? And it has to be, you have to stand on principle. What I'm looking for in a person are your principles. And a lot of people, women and men, both think that a woman should not possess any masculinity within her. But to build one's character requires a level of masculinity within. So a lot of women do not have built and developed characters. What I'm looking for in a partner is a developed character or the willingness to develop the character. A person who is highly interested in education, right? That is critical. A person who can be by herself, who has the ability to control and channel her emotions in the appropriate time in the appropriate way. If that is not there, we are not compatible.
I agree with a lot of what you said. Actually, with most of what you said. I think the development on both sides, men and women, need to develop the other attribute of the opposite person, right? There needs to be a man needs to have a feminine-ish to him as a woman, but you cannot lead with that character, right? If you're a woman and you want to, you cannot lead with the masculine, right? Like you just can't. And if you're a man, you can't lead with the ultra feminine. But you have to be able to show glimpses of that we know what's in there. I'll piggyback off of what you said, or kind of just add my own 2 cents. It's not just, it's where you meet this person at. How was the connection genuinely when you meet them? You can discern a lot. I can't tell you how, you said you opted out the game. I can't tell you how to navigate the game, but I can tell you with a simple conversation and an intentional conversation, you can figure it out very easily. I think the problem is a lot of women or a lot of people in the dating pool, they overlook that. You see red flags flashing, turn around, don't drown, turn around, don't drown. But you're so hyperly sexual. There's this energy about him. He has this, he has that. I want to show him off to my girlfriends. I want to show off to my fellas, this. And you just ignore everything. So you have to be honest. Intentional conversations, right? Genuine conversations. A date. You can learn a lot about a man if he says, where do you want to go? And you pick a regular spot. It's when you say things like, I want to go to Del Frisco's. I just met you at Tipsy's. Why we gotta go there? Like we just can't go.
Right.
We just can't go grab, we can't go get something, food truck, walk around and do a little like it's those type of things. So for me, on both sides, it's about where you meet them, those casual conversations. You'll be surprised what a 2 or 3 minute conversation with somebody will have outside of that environment will tell you exactly what it is, and you'll know.
And that's based on what we have, supply and demand. So where is this supply and demand coming from? It comes from human nature, because to actually be a principled person requires a level of self-discipline and effort to control one's nature. What has happened over the years is little by little requirements for humans have been taken away, and you have been allowed to just operate in your nature. And nobody's telling you that's wrong. Nobody's correcting you. So now we've made degeneration cool. Now, when you start to look at different cultures, okay, they still have a level of shame, and we don't want to be associated with y'all because you're degenerates and reckless.
Right.
You don't have principles and built characters to say, no matter what you say is cool, I'm not doing that. See, to be black is to be like being uneducated is cool. To skip class is cool. And nobody corrects you, right? So nobody's telling you to do this. This is just a part of your natural drive that makes you behave this way. The question now becomes is at what point will black people realize that the only people that's gonna save them is self? Because no, the white folks ain't coming to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. They just gonna let you do it, and then they gonna capitalize off it. They're gonna get your money out of jail. They're gonna get your child support, and so you can't blame mama. You can't blame the white man. You got to be able to look at yourself and say, you know what? I'm just a jacked up individual, and I needed to get it together. And as a man, you need to stop looking for validation from women, because a lot of these women they like nothing men. And they're going to validate men that ain't got nothing going on. And if you looking for their validation, you going to jail. You ain't gonna be nothing. No, I'm serious.
Right. Question?
So I want to touch on something that Princella and Tony spoke about a little bit, and that's age gap relationships. It's something that I personally encourage for specific clients, and also something that I believe in myself, especially if you are like in this young lady situation where the things you desire aren't common within the male counterparts that are in our age group. And I want to know, in what situations would you say that a age gap relationship could work?
I think honestly, 10 years is a good start. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think if a female is 25, I think 35 would be good for her.
Let's be honest. You guys aren't going to listen to the person the same age as you. He has no influence over you. He probably make the same amount of money as you. You know,
So I
listening to
asked
him
this-
probably. I'm not saying all.
Yeah, we I know you're going to say something. Go ahead, Tony. I know what you want to say.
Sorry. I just think so. First off, I don't like this narrative of listen to that. I ain't trying to raise nobody. That's we not trying to do all that. Like if you 25 and I'm 35, I'm assuming based on conversations that we've had that we're collectively at the same mental state. You may be a little bit mature. I may be down a little couple notches, but we right about there, right? I'm not trying to date. You know, like I have a daughter. I don't need another one. You know what I'm saying? I have a son. I don't need another child, right? So in my opinion, right, I think you need to date at maturity. Are you mature? You know, are you at that level? If the age gap is 10 years, if it's 12 years, cool. But can you move and flex the way I do in certain instances, right? I need to be able to take you to a bar and to a cocktail event at work, and you need to be able to hold your own in both.
Right.
Take you around my mama and the homies and my boss at the Christmas party. Can you do that? I don't care if you're 24, 34, as long as you're of the 20-ish age, we good.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I want to get to the camera all kind of crazy.
That's really good, and I totally agree with you there. What I would like to say to women is stop looking for somebody to take care of you. Because when you're looking for somebody to take care of you, see, men won't tell you. Men like to feel needed. They don't actually like to be needed, okay? Because when you come in so needy and you start putting all this pressure on him, he's going to get overburdened and overwhelmed, and he's going to check out. He like to feel needed. He don't actually like to be needed. So you searching for a relationship partner that can take care of you, you're not going to be approaching that relationship correctly. Because you got to understand, the average person is a narcissist. The average person is only concerned about what they want and talking about themselves. So the element to conversation or communication, which is active listening is non-existent between most people. Most people are caught up in talking about themselves and talking about what they want. When you pursue a relationship, you're mostly focused on what you want and how that person can serve you. So you actually don't ask questions and let that person talk and actually analyze who you're dealing with. Neither party actually, well, men do it more than women because women are in la la land most of the time. Men actually know because they're the ones going up to you. You're not pursuing them. They already know why they're approaching you. You don't know why they're approaching you. And because you don't know, you're always going to say something within 5 minutes that will let that man know exactly what category to put you in.
The game isn't about getting over on women. That's not what he was saying when he was talking about the game. The game is you already know I'm too old for you.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't afford to go to Stake 48, right? So I'm gonna take you to Stake 48, but you have to recognize that that's what it is. You have to recognize
There
what
it
you
is.
want,
That's
who
the
you
game.
are, and so that's what
Knowing
makes it
what
the
it
game.
is.
But if you want that real serious thing, I defer a little bit from them in the sense that I think that age is just a number to a degree. It's a life experience thing.
Right.
We're not saying you're too young at 19. We're saying you didn't have enough life experience at 19, right? But you could take a 23, 24, let's say 28-year-old, right? Who's lived at home their whole life. And then you can have a 28-year-old that went into the military, traveled the country, got their education. They're going to be the same age, but they're going to have two
Yeah, it's
completely
quality.
different things
A lot of
to
different
offer
experiences.
from a
Right.
quality standpoint.
Right, and in that particular situation, I would obviously see it as gay. But I'm saying coming from a history of large age gap marriages and that being my first relationship
Right.
exposed to, me dating at 24 and now I'm 24, and a lot of my clients are 20 years older than me, all my friends are 20 years older than me. It would make sense for me to date in an age gap. But when I talk to other women that are like closer to my age, they are like, oh my gosh, no.
So let me tell you why.
And I don't think that's necessarily
Yeah, you want to go?
negative.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so when this is the problem that a lot of humans have. We try to copy things that have been done in different time periods and in different environments under different conditions and different circumstances. And then we go into new environments with completely different circumstances, and then we try to implement what we saw somebody else do. We are in a completely different time frame. Stop listening to people tell you what is the best and what ain't the best for in terms of this age gap thing. Why don't you open your ears, open your eyes, and analyze the environment, the people? Listen, they're gonna tell you who they are. They're going to show you who they are. You have to be able to use your brain to be able to draw a conclusion what is best for you. Because I'm telling you, just like he said, this age thing absolutely doesn't matter. You're looking for the quality of character, the mind that could come in somebody that's your exact same age. It can come in somebody that's 3 years older than you. It can come somebody that's 10 years older or younger than you. Listen, if people haven't developed quality, experience gives a person richness of mind and richness of soul, right?
So the other thing too is again the self-awareness piece, right? That can't be said enough, right? Because Tony and I have had these conversations. We had like a few months that we went back and forth on this, right? You can't stay or keep yourself in the same circles and date the same people and keep getting the same results and think you're going to go back to that same pond and find somebody, right? So let's make it black and white. If all you go to are hip hop clubs and you're like, I want a man that's a professional, right? But every night you go into a place where everybody wants to be a rapper, right? Everybody wants to, boom, 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 right? Then you're not going to do that. So you have to have that accountability to remove yourself, because it may not be that you're not finding the right person. It may be that you're not ready for the right person, right? You have to elevate yourself, and that's where it is. So one of the things that you touched on, a big difference between men and women that we don't talk about is, as men, we know where we stand on the totem pole. Every man on
Real
earth
quick.
knows where he stands
Real
on the totem
quick.
pole. Y'all don't.
Y'all don't.
Y'all all think y'all tens, right? And the reason that men know where they stand is because
The world
they
tells us.
understand the world tells us
quick.
the world
You
tells
ain't-
us, but we also understand that, okay, we need to be able to live a certain place. We need to make a certain amount of money to be comfortable. We have to do these certain things because our existence is about providing for whoever it is we care about, right? That's our existence, right? I got a nice car, I got a nice place, but would I be okay living in a 1-bedroom apartment, chilling by myself and being good? Yeah, I would, right? But I have certain things that I have to do because I have other things that I like. But I'm saying that to say that we all understand that we have to have things behind our name in order to attract a partner. So the question for your accountability becomes, okay, what are you doing or what are you putting behind your name? And it doesn't necessarily have to be education, but it has to be something, right? If you want to go primitive, can you even cook, right? Like, what do you have that you're developing as you're going on to put yourself in that position when you want to level up?
When you're navigating dating, it's very simple, men and women. Just keep this in mind. Takers can always recognize givers. That's it. So that conversation, like I said earlier, is key. 1 5-minute conversation will save you a lifetime full of pain and heartache.
I want to thank everyone on this dynamic panel. And I also would like you to drop a 1-sentence word of wisdom to leave with our audience. Because personally, I think love has a lot to do with it. Loving yourself, loving others like you love yourself, and realizing that if you don't love yourself, you can't love nobody else. Okay? That's my word of wisdom. And what is yours?
My 1 sentence would be, don't be too harsh on yourself. Remember that we all make mistakes. Communicate. If you communicate, everything falls into place.
1 sentence. I would say look in the mirror, take accountability and action, and attract what you want. It'll come to you. You attract it.
And I would like to say that the root of all evil is ignorance. Ignorance is the root of all evil. If you want a better life, if you want a better world, educate yourself, on yourself, and about the people around you, because it ain't all about you.
I would say character, 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 right? If you're dating, look for character, right? Build your character and have a firm understanding of what character you want and you're looking for, right? Because everybody isn't for everybody. And we say it all the time. We know we say it, but we don't necessarily adhere to it, right? I think that the clarity comes, at least on this level, and just understanding who you are and setting goals for yourself for who you want to be as a person. And that will make it easier for you to see someone else's character as well.
We have one other question from the audience. I hope you're able to abide.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Jersey. I just wanted to kind of circle back on the whole topic of what men want women to know about dating. So my question is, what are some kind of like unspoken expectation that men have when they're intentionally dating that they might not articulate to women? So then we're not fishing and trying to figure out.
Okay, so with your question, what you should know is that the character part is important because from your initial meeting with the man, he's just trying to figure out where to put you. So it's about what you're providing to him for him to determine what he's going to do with you.
And they can't tell you that, right? And I wouldn't advise them to tell you that.
You said
because people like to pretend to be something that they're not. And when you want a healthy relationship, you want to date a person based in their authenticity,
right,
who they really are, right? A lot of women mess up because they come trying to be something and trying to you're taking advice from a lot of people online, teaching you how to run game, teaching you how to finesse a man, telling you.
Because nowadays how society is on social media, it's like women are telling the women to go for the men that have money to get them to pay for this and that. So then it's like, it's confusing because then men are going to assume that that's all women want. So now the women that are on chemistry and have stuff to offer, now they're placed over here because men think
But
that.
can I ask you, can I say, let me say something real quick. I think I can help get to the bottom. Not get to the bottom, just on my observation. reciprocity and appreciation go a long way. A lot of women fumble a lot of bags because they don't appreciate, they don't show reciprocity. Case in point, he gave you the outline. I see you, you're cute, I come up, I buy you a drink, so on and so forth. Let's say the rest of the night we just kind of talk back and forth. This when I text you, how fast you text back? I'm not expecting a minute, but it's all day. Your phone's in your hands all the time. So I was busy, don't work. Cool, so we do all that. Then on the flip side, we go out to Steak 48. Hey, it went well. Everything's healthy. We talked through the week. Hey, you know what? It's a Taco Tuesday. Why don't you meet such and such? Get some tacos is $9 for 3 tacos. That goes a long way. You gotta eat dinner, right? You gotta cook. Hey, once we get to a point, hey, you know, maybe the bread ain't right. Maybe you're a little funny style this month. Hey, I'm cooking such. Come over. Dog, it don't have to be. It's simple.
It's simple.
When they say guys are easy, we are super easy.
It's not that simple. And you want to know why it's not that simple?
Talk to me.
Men, the whole society done messed up because see, women have a sense of entitlement. Wouldn't you say? Would you say?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Where does that entitlement come from? He said something earlier, and every time men say this, it just dig y'all further into a hole. Men are here to provide. We're here to provide. We're here to give. So women get this thing that, okay, my purpose here is to receive what a man gives me. That's what I'm here for. There's no need to thank you for what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, supposed to be.
Dang,
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
harsh.
No, I'm saying
Okay.
that you all have to stop saying that because that's the train of thought. Because at the end of the day, when you have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, if the boy starts crying, everybody hops on him and saying, hey, stop crying, big boys don't do this. She's a girl, she can do that, she's emotional. So girls are allowed to grow up completely uncultivated. They're allowed to grow up without the understanding of respect and reciprocity. They're trained like this. They're allowed to just exist. So then when men speak, they further solidify that to say we're providers.
I don't want him raised, growing up, harboring his emotions or hiding them. I need him to be emotional enough. But I just think that appreciation part and that reciprocity part, I understand what you're saying, but we have to retrain our women to understand that.
I agree with that, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that when men get out here and say that, they continue to solidify an already jacked up thought process
Gotcha.
of women.
But
Okay,
We don't
so
know
hold
it's
on.
jacked up until we
And
don't
I'm-
get appreciated.
And that's the reason why I teach this. So what I'm saying is this: everybody wants appreciation and compassion, right? Well, I have a framework called the 5 components of love. She say love, you know, what's love got to do with it? Actually, love has everything to do with it. And this comes with this concept that I created. Because in order for you to get appreciation and compassion and respect, you know there's something that comes before that.
So I again want to say thank you so much. This was like being in a graduate class on relationships. So we applaud you and we welcome you to have this opportunity again in a more climate controlled atmosphere.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Greetings, everyone. I want to thank you for tuning into what men want women to know about dating. One of the reasons why it was very important for us to host this particular panel discussion, we need to talk about dating. What are the expectations on both sides? The only way that we can have harmonious relationships if we take a look at what really is so that we can make it better. So I want to thank Priscilla, the Queen Maker, and Blake for making this vision a reality. And our hope and dream for you is that you find the true love that you're seeking. Thanks again for tuning in. For more information about who we are, 50 plus and flirty, just do a Google and you'll find all kinds of wonderful things about us. We have a YouTube channel, we have a webpage, And we also have access to our last summit where we had 15 powerful speakers speaking about dating. We had psychologists, we had mental health professionals, matchmakers, dating experts, you name it, we had it. See, we are vested in your dating success. Okay, stay tuned because we're going to come back with more for you because love, you can have it in this season. All right, bye-bye.